Okay. Yay.
Yay.
Let's see. Oh, it still says, at least on mine, it says we have a minute to go. I was early.
Oh, whoops.
It's okay. At least, I mean, that's what it's saying on.
Life is already full of surprises, but you're too
mute. That's why I was like, I'm waiting for it to, because I know something's going to come up.
There it goes. Yay. How are you doing?
Good. So when I messaged you this morning, that was actually last night for me, because I was like trying to refresh and I was like, I don't. So that's why I was like, I don't know this one. So
no worries. I actually just talked about it. Hi, Ellen.
Ellen.
Hi, Drew. Hi, Priscilla. Hi, Casey.
Hello, everybody.
Yay.
I couldn't remember. It's been so long. I couldn't remember if I'd be able to see the chat from our end or if I'd have to look on YouTube. But it looks like I can see it.
Yeah. Sometimes it's a little delayed, but it's nice to be able to see it directly from here. Hi, everyone.
Both of us decided to go for black today.
Yes, it's very Halloween of us.
Yeah.
Alan.
I mean, I've got my PlayStation shirt.
Yep.
I have the books. I don't know. I mean, people know what books we're talking about, but I have them here in case.
Good. I forgot them in the other room, so I'm glad you have them.
Hello, everybody. We hope you're well also. Can you hear me okay? I have my mic just a little over.
I can hear you, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I can hear you good.
Yeah, we'll just kind of wait a little bit. It'll be very chill. Just kind of let people come in. But what books are you talking about? Okay, so we're talking about Hood, which is a Welsh Robin Hood retelling.
Yes.
Never Die, which is a self-pub kind of anime inspired. And then Kingdom of Souls, which is an African-inspired YA fantasy. And these were all buddy read picks for us this year. For those that maybe... Oh, Jessie, do you have a PlayStation?
No, but I have a Switch. And I love a good Pokemon game.
I have a silly story. I have a silly story about Jessie and her Switch that we'll get to in a second. But so these were the buddy read books that we picked from this year. Hi, Andy. And so we had all these buddy read picks. And at the time, Jessie hadn't been telling people that she was pregnant. So when we announced the buddy reads, we were saying, we'll try to do a live show for the first few and then kind of play it by ear, which was our way of saying, pretty sure Jessie's not going to be available come like March or April.
Yeah.
She'll be pretty far along. And then, then she'll have the kid.
Yeah.
And you did, and she takes up all your time.
I had a kid.
So,
time.
yes, I know. So we, that's why we decided we would do kind of a wrap-up style live show. So it's a girl. I don't know why I'm answering for you. I saw it in the chat.
Yeah.
Oh, that's nice.
That's very nice, Beth.
Everybody else and not us. You're here for the people in the chat, not us.
Thank you, Ruthie.
Anyway, though, so we that's why it's been a little bit, and we wanted to do these 3 books, and we'll try to get around to doing another live show to talk about some of the other buddy reads. But I was so worried that people, I mean, everybody's so nice, basically, that subscribes to booktube channels, but I still, just the nature of the internet, was afraid people were gonna try to pry or be rude or something. And it's just, I was so relieved that nobody's like, yeah, where are you? Or something.
Yeah, everybody's been so nice. Yeah, we were really good.
So the other day we did a World Hoppers video, which I have World Hoppers, I think, linked in the description bar, but we did one with Jade also, because Jade also had a baby. So if you guys are interested in a little bit more of a personal chat type of update, because we'll mostly be sticking to books, I'm sure we'll go off on some side tangents. But were you wanting to do any spoilers for these, or do you want to just kind of do wrap up style, not go into spoilers? Or maybe we'll see if there's anything.
Yeah, I think we can keep it pretty spoiler free for most of it.
I think so.
Yeah. Yeah, especially since a lot of people, if you're in the chat and haven't read the books, then I don't want you to have to like leave the chat. So maybe we can keep it spoiler free. And if there is a time where we have to do spoilers, we can put up a little banner. But
That's
I'll try
what
to keep it spoiler free.
the eyeshadow for Jessie, or because
your eyeshadow is always on point, Elle. It's been amazing. I loved your Yennefer look. It's a fantastic video.
I really want, I'll just give it away. I really want the next one to be Sailor Moon inspired. I just got to figure out, because a lot of people do the anime looks where they make their eyes look really big by using white eyeliner. And
yeah.
So, I don't know that I want to do that, because so many other people have done it and they're going to do it better than me. But I want to do something, and I'm not sure, because the hair will be great. You're right. Like, I'll do the,
You're going to do it? I love it.
I won't be able to do it quite like Usagi's, of course, because I don't have that much hair. But I want to do something with, the buns. But but as far as, the look, I'm not sure yet.
That'd be awesome. Oh, my God.
That's, the only reason I haven't done it. I want to also use the ColourPop Sailor Moon.
Yes, I was going to ask if you were going to use that one.
Yeah, that was the plan. So
that's awesome.
I played around with something not too long ago, just on a normal day that I wasn't filming, just to see if I liked it or not. And I was like, I don't know. So anyway, we'll see. But getting to the little story I said I would tell as far as Jessie with video games. So I've mentioned a few times that I went on what I called my Prego Pals trip earlier, which will get brought up when we talk about the books, because it's actually relevant to that. But when I went to go visit Jessie, she was like, we can play Final Fantasy X because I know you love it and I can play it on the Switch. And I was like, don't mess around. Are you serious? Don't lie to me. Can we really? I was very excited about it. And then poor Jessie didn't realize that she didn't have enough space. Not only did it's not that you needed to free up space. It was that your Switch just didn't have enough space.
No, even if I had no other games on my Switch, I still wouldn't have had enough space, which is bizarre.
So bad, because then you have to go to GameStop and buy you the thing so that you'd have enough space. But then, and I'm sitting here because I'm like, she's going to have to download it because you didn't have a physical. Well, either way, I was like, I know that it's going to take time. And then she's like, let's go to play. And I was like, it might need to download. And it did for a really long time.
I had no idea.
I spent so much money for us to play the beginning, which is not that exciting. The beginning is weird. And I was introducing you to everything. So,
so funny. That was awesome, Dad. I love that.
The reason that the Prego Pals trip was relevant, though, is because one of the books, Kingdom of Souls, I was kind of reading it at the airport because I went to where Jessie lives, and then I hung out with her, and then I had to catch another flight to go visit Jade, and then I had to catch another flight to come home. So I was reading at the airport. When I visited Jade, I was in a hotel, so I was trying to read in the hotel and stuff. And honestly, I hardly remember the book, and I was trying to refresh myself because this was months ago for Kingdom of Souls, and I just don't remember it very well. So, Jessie,
it was April, I read it. So,
that's why I visited you, right?
Yeah. So it was 5 months ago. Yeah. So, or 6 months ago. How long ago was that? 6 months? Wow, this year has gone so fast. That's wild. But yeah, I remember quite a bit of it actually because I really enjoyed it. So I'm curious what you thought of it, but
I don't remember it at all.
Oh man,
I don't feel like it's fair for me to. But I did just read Hood and Never Die, so I have lots of thoughts on those ones.
Okay, good. Yeah, I don't know any of your thoughts on any of these. I haven't seen you talk about them at all yet, so I'm so curious to hear your thoughts on these.
Kind of purposefully not talked about.
Yeah.
Any of our buddy read books that we haven't talked about together, I've not been mentioning them basically at all, because I figured that way we could
I get surprised.
So on that note, we'll probably get into it. Which one do you want to start with? I was thinking maybe Kingdom of Souls could be last.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah, since that one's the one we kind of remember the least about, we can start with the freshest and then work our way. Okay, that's fine. Do you want to do Never Die first? Since that one was the last buddy read it was the September one, right? Yeah.
I'm forgetting, but probably.
Whatever it was.
Gideon the 9th is this month's.
No, it was August. Never Die was in August.
Okay.
Okay.
So, Okay, I mean, I don't want to spoil my thoughts on the other ones, but no, I have not read Deadly Education. I enjoyed Never Die. I thought it was really good, but it is not my cup of tea. So it was like a weird kind of like, I enjoyed it and I liked it and I could see, or at least in my opinion, I think it's good, right? But it's not, and there's reasons for it. And the main one being, and I mention it all the time, I'm pretty picky when it comes to action scenes. And I legit think the action scenes in this book are fantastic.
Yeah.
And they're varied enough where each one is kind of different, but pretty much the whole book is one fight scene after the next.
Yes.
And so I think it would make a fantastic, like, one season anime. But,
yes. Or I was going to say video game. Like, it felt like I was reading a video game.
Mm-hmm. But I say all the time, I like to just sit and think with the characters and get all their emotions and stuff. So yes, Patrick makes me want to read everything that he talks about.
Yes.
Even books I've read and didn't care for. I'm like, maybe I
did like that.
Maybe I did when I hear him talk about it.
Yeah.
Patrick is very convincing. And he's very sweet and he has a really cute dog.
Love it.
Patrick's great. But yeah, those were kind of, I'll get into more thoughts, but I want to hear your kind of overall.
No, yeah. I mean, I have the same kind of overall thoughts where I had so much fun with it. Like, I thought it was a blast to read, and it was pretty short, where I think it was good that it was short given what it was, because I don't know if I could have done like too much more of that. Right. But I really liked it for what it was and thought it was very unique, cool concept. I really liked the concept. The twist at the end, I know we're keeping it spoiler free, but the twist at the end had me like, huh. Yeah. Wow. So I actually really had fun with it, but it's not like a favorite because it just didn't, kind of on the same line as you were going on. The characters, they were fun, but they weren't anything that was like spectacular. The action was fun, but I like more than just action. Right. And yeah, so I had fun with it. And actually what's interesting is the next book in the series, I don't think it's like a direct sequel. I think each of the different sequels are kind of a spinoff, and it's much bigger, which is interesting. I'm wondering if maybe we get more like character development and kind of world development in the other Mortal Techniques stories. Because that's kind of what I was missing, was like deeper development of characters and world.
Right. And the first two characters that are introduced, I wanted, because I think in the short amount of time we had with them, they felt very real, but you just don't get much of them. I wanted more of them. Yeah. And I think that it could have made some of the things that happened later hit me harder, but because I was with them for not as much time and most of that time was fighting and stuff, I don't think it could have, and I don't think that was the point too, right? But I like when books hit me really hard emotionally. So it was fun and it was a good time. But the first two characters that are introduced, I guess I just would have loved to have had them for a really long time.
Because I loved them.
It's one of those two stories that you like pick up people along the way.
Yes.
You know, so obviously the first couple that you're introduced to, you know them the best because you're with them the longest. And I think it was good for what it was too. Like, I guess what I'm saying is I think it was perfect just the way it was. For if you had tried to do other things, it wouldn't have been what it is. Is that making
right? No, it does.
To say, but I guess like in my mind, I'm like, what if it had been like 2 or 3 books, and then we could really like delve into the character? And I'm like, but that's not what this is, though, right? Like, I feel like it was just fun. I described it to my husband when I was telling him about it. You know how in fantasy stories, you always, especially in epic fantasy, you get like a story within the story. Like at some point, like Hoyd and Stormlight will tell you some story or something, right? There's like a legend or whatever. This book felt to me like one of the legends that you would hear in a fantasy book, but actually like, here is the book. Like, here's that legend.
That's what such a good way to put it. Yes, that's such a good way to put it. And like, for context, for those of you who haven't read it that are in the chat, it's only like 250 pages. Like, it's like, I think just over what is a novella considered?
I'm not sure. It's 270.
270. Okay.
I will say the text. These are like it takes all the way up, and like it's not really big spacing and stuff.
Yeah.
I was actually surprised the audiobook is longer than I thought. I thought it was going to be like an 8-hour audiobook, and it was. I can check, but it's. Sorry. Anyway, I just wanted to.
Yeah.
Add that for context.
Yeah, but I think like given the amount of time we had, I think we got the most out of it that we could have. Like, yeah. I think he did such a good job. And it makes me want to read more of his work because I loved the first 2 characters that we were introduced to so much. And I really liked his character work because each of the different characters that we pick up along the way were so different from each other. Like, they very much had their own very distinct personalities and voices. You could very easily tell people apart. And I liked his writing, like a lot, like super polished, very well executed.
It's if anybody doesn't know.
Yeah, it felt very like well done. So I really want to read more of his work. But again, like it just, the type of story it wasn't anything that was going to become like a new favorite for me, but it was
great for like a weekend read. Like you just want something fun, not something you gotta, because you don't have to worry too much about the like having to keep up with everything really.
Yeah.
And so if anybody doesn't know what it's about, the idea is that there's this boy who wants revenge. You don't really know. He's trying to carry out this mission, and he has to, or he needs people to help him do this. And he's using his magical ability of being able to bring someone back from the dead to help him with his task. And so he's bringing back from the dead various different heroes, and they all are very different from one another. They all kind of have like their own powers in a sense. And you don't really know his mission. His mission seems impossible. The people he brings back from the dead are bound to him, so they can't really go all that far away from him, or they'll die. And if they do die, like he can't bring them back again. They've only had that one time that they can die. So they sort of are forced to go along with his plan and help him. And that's the only way they're going to be free from being bound to him. So it's very interesting setup. Cool. I don't always love when a book starts with action, because then you don't really know what's going on or who's who. But if you know the premise, you're like, okay, well, I know that we're going to, like, this is almost like an intro to this character. And so I actually did like, and I did like the action scenes, and I thought this was a good way to introduce our first character. And as far as action at the beginning goes, I liked this one, but it really is kind of one action scene after the next, because you get introduced to the various different characters that he's going to kind of pick up along the way. And those characters, because the people have to die in order to be bound to him, it's like once he gets one person recruited, then that person kind of has to help him kill the next person so that he can bring them back, and then that person's bound. So you get a lot of like, I think the chapter titles are even like this person versus this person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It made me, in my mind, visualize like Mortal Kombat. Like when you pick your 2 characters and it's like Kur versus Kur. Like I was always like picturing like a Mortal Kombat like video game in my head. But it was cool. Like again, like it's one that I'm definitely going to recommend because it was just like fun. Like if you're just looking for a good time.
I wanted to ask you, because I know that you would probably have more knowledge about this than I would. So I tried to look in the author's note or to see if there's anything about, because the story is very heavily inspired by Japanese culture.
Yeah.
Like there are yokai and things like that.
Yeah.
And I don't have extensive knowledge outside of just, from having read certain books or watching certain shows, or just like very little basic knowledge. And so I was just curious, because for those that don't know, Jessie lived in Japan for a lot of her life. So how do you feel like the Japanese inspiration was done, I guess? I can't tell.
Yeah, no, it was interesting because I, going into the book, thought it was Japanese inspired. And then some of the like inspirations didn't feel purely Japanese. Like it kind of felt like a blend of a couple different Asian cultures. So, I mean, our first character that we're introduced to, I forget her name, the
Cho?
Yes. Like, I think she felt the most like character that was mostly Japanese inspired. But there were some of the other characters that we got introduced to that didn't feel as much. But I also am not a huge anime watcher. I don't consume a lot of like manga or anime. So some of the inspiration is also taken from that, and I wouldn't be able to like speak to that really. But I don't think Rob J. Hayes is like Japanese or anything. So
I don't think so either. So that's why I was wondering like what, because it feels so anime inspired.
Yeah.
And like, look, I was trying to find other reviews. Like I know someone mentioned Petrick, and Petrick's review talks about a lot of the different, because he does like, manga and anime and everything. So he's talking about how it feels very inspired by these various different ones. And
I see. I would.
And so I just know that I can't speak to like, oh, this is, certain stories, they like the Poppy War people love how, not accurate, I guess, kind of, but just like how much knowledge she has of that.
Totally.
So I didn't know if it was, I just couldn't speak to that. And I was curious if you had.
I would be curious to see like Japanese reviewers, because it felt to me as just like an outsider who lived in Japan for 7 years. It felt very like much like a blend of different Asian cultures, not just Japanese. But I'm curious if that's just because I don't watch a lot of like anime or read a lot of manga. I'm
so always afraid of being that person that's like, wow, that was really well done. And it's
right.
Like it's just what an American thinks.
Definitely not an expert.
And like I said, I haven't found too many. I was trying to find reviews of people, but beyond Petrick, which Petrick is in Indonesia, just to be clear. But again, he's somebody who you can check out his review of it. It's on Goodreads, and all his reviews are great. Just check out Petrick. I feel like that's me.
I have like one video that was just like a advertisement for Petrick's channel. I really enjoyed it. I'm excited to dive into the other stories in the world, because I feel like we didn't get a whole lot of world building.
We really don't. And because I've watched a fair amount of anime, I feel like I'm kind of accustomed to some of the things that it talks about, but I also wonder if you have no knowledge of any of that, it doesn't hold your hand. Like you can figure it out. Yeah. But it's, some of the things that are mentioned, almost like talking about like yokai and oni and things like that. Like, the oni are like the big bads, if you're familiar with it. But if you're not, you're like, I don't know why is this one scarier than this one? Because they have to fight things also. They don't just kind of have to fight each other, but they fight these other kind of underworld type beings, is what I'll call them. Like these spirits, sort of. So it reminded me a little, a tiny bit of Shadow of the Fox.
Yes.
So if you like Shadow of the Fox and you're looking for maybe like a quicker, more action-packed story, I guess, that kind of has a similar vibe, then I think this one, I'm going to set it down because this is it again, just in case anybody very short. I do kind of wish, because I did like the first two characters so much, and like I said before, I wanted to see more of them. I also kind of think that the characters that were introduced later were, I don't want to say like stereotypes of characters we've seen before, but they had less depth. And I think it worked, because the later you get, the more that you almost want them to just be cartoonish, because then you don't have to feel like you're missing out on getting to know them. But they did kind of feel a little cartoonish, Yeah. So
I have a question for you about, and keeping it as spoiler free as we can, but talking about the ending a little bit, because there is quite a large twist at the end that you either can see coming or can't see. There's a couple different elements to the twist.
Aspect of the end that I was like, there's no way, because it's hard to keep this where we don't go into any spoilers, but there's something that happens at the beginning, and there's like a character who mourns someone else,
Yeah.
and they like are being respectful of that person, and they want to. And then so this is so like nonsense right now. So in my mind, I was like, what about that though? And then it very kind of in passing clears that up, but there's no way we could have known that was a thing.
I had to like reread it several times because I didn't understand.
Should I just put like spoiler for a minute? Like should I put? You can mute us for like a minute or two, and then we'll be.
Because I'm really curious what you.
Okay, I promise this is gonna be brief. Okay, mute us. I want to give you like 10 seconds, really quick.
Yes, we'll give you time.
So that way, if you're like in your car,
I have two separate things about the ending that I wanted to talk about really quick because it is a pretty big. It's pretty big.
Okay.
Here
we go. So, do you want to say your thing first, or do you want me to clarify?
So, okay, one aspect of the twist was I was totally fine with, like the reveal that the bandaged man was the son.
Yes.
And that was fine. Like that part of the twist, understood, got it. But the one where it was like they died so long ago and they've been dead for years and years and years, that one I was like, huh?
And I'm like sitting here, I'm like, but she found the body of this person that she cared about. And like he cleared it up. He did. It was like, I just had to create this illusion. That took a lot of work.
Right.
They had to like recreate their initial death for them.
Yeah.
And I was like, it was like the things that happened right after the death is what they had to like, create this illusion of. And I was like, I feel like that there's no way that you could have just known that that's what they could have done,
Right. And like, I don't understand how it could have been. Like, do they just have no memory of stuff before that ending, like death scene and post death? Like, I don't understand how he could have created an illusion. Maybe I'm overthinking it.
but like some of our characters, we see them, I'm going to say in real time, like kill the other characters.
Right.
Yeah. So was it because the one guy is like doesn't understand why nobody remembers who he is? The big guy, right?
Yes. And like that made sense.
But
sort of
watched him get shot.
Yeah, and I'm confused because I thought, like, how do they not know that they're dead? Because they're like living. Like, do you know what I mean?
Like, know that they've been dead for a long time.
Yeah.
And it's because like he had to create this illusion for what would have happened right after. But it's still confusing because I'm like, so you killed them a long time ago. And this is all happening. And then at what point are we actually in?
Right.
Anyway, okay, let me get rid of the spoilers. So
okay, that's all.
Anymore. I think it's just a matter of maybe we need to like really go because I'm sure they've thought it through, right?
Yes.
And I even read in the author's note where they're like, thanks to my girlfriend for letting me like, explain this thing. And so I'm like, okay, I think I just need because I also am like, I believe he's figured it out,
Yes.
But I need to go back to
I need to like reread it just to like see. But
there's this game that I absolutely love. It's terrible. It's one of those, I've mentioned it before. It's like the worst game ever, but it's so funny. And I think it's called Shadow of Destiny, but it's called something else in other countries. But it's got like a homunculus and you get murdered, but then the homunculus gives you the ability to go back before your murder and not die, like do something so that you're not in that place at that time or whatever.
Okay.
But you can't just not die that one time. You need to like solve your murder and figure out what's going on, which takes him back like hundreds of years. You have this device that lets you time travel.
Wow.
And then the ending though, like makes, when you really think about it, you're like, wait. And that's the case with any time travel stuff, right?
Yeah.
Like, wait a second though, but like if this happened, this would have never happened. And so how? And that's how I felt a little bit about this one,
Yeah, right. Are you going to read the other Mortal Techniques stories that are set in the same world?
Maybe someday.
Okay.
I don't know that I'm like in a big hurry to pick them up because this
Right.
one is a standalone, right?
Yes.
So you don't have to. It's very done at the end.
Yes.
But maybe someday, and maybe you can let me know how they are.
Yes, I will let you know. Yeah, I have the second one, so I'll let you know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dream Master. It's originally called Shadow of Memories.
Ah.
Shadow of Destiny in the States.
Oh, interesting.
So I don't know why it's a different title from different places, but
Yeah.
oh my god, I know this is unrelated, but there's a part where he I think I've told you this. He goes to visit a fortune teller thinking like this person will give me insight on my death or my murder, right?
Yeah.
So he walks in, the person's like very creepily saying like, I've been expecting you or whatever, right? And then there's a pause, and then he goes, but it's like so delayed and it's the best. And then he goes, well, actually, I'm really excited to be like he's like all back to talking normal. It's the best. If I can find it, I'll send it because it always makes me laugh. It's one of those games that movies that are so bad they're good.
Yes.
That's this game.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it's not it's not the worst game, but it's just so funny because like the delayed and the voice acting sometimes, or where I don't think it's the voice actor's faults, right? It's like where they place it, and it's really funny because when you go back hundreds of years, he'll like use a lighter and they think it's magic or witchcraft, and they're like, oh, and they all freak out. Anyway,
that's
back
awesome.
to books. Okay, getting into Hood. Is that cool?
I'm curious what you think of Hood.
Okay, hold on. Let me put up just for people that are, maybe joining late. Hood chat, and I'll say spoiler free. And then if we get into spoilers, then I'll change that.
Perfect.
What it says. Okay, I want to know your thoughts first.
Okay.
Never mind.
Okay. I really liked it. It's not a favorite for me. I thought the characters were not the best part of it. That was probably the weakest part of the book for me, but I really liked the plot, the pacing. For some reason, I read this one really quick. Like, it kept me engaged throughout from page 1. Like, I was so into it while I was reading it, even though I didn't love any of the characters. I really liked how high the stakes felt the whole time because of something that happens at the very beginning. It like really raises the stakes right away and makes you kind of fear for every character. And he's definitely not afraid to like kill off characters that you're like, oh, I thought they were going to stick around a little bit longer than they did. And I liked the twist on the Robin Hood story. So I think that I'm curious what you are going to have to say, because characters is something that you place a big emphasis on. And because I thought that was the weakest part, I'm really wondering if you liked it. I liked it, but I don't love any of the characters yet. So I'm continuing on, but
I loved the first part.
Yeah.
For a while, I was so into the book, and I was like, okay, unless something frustrates me, this is going to be great. And and then sure enough, I was like, dude, why? And I was by the end, I did not care for it.
Okay, yes.
Okay, the main character is just such a butthole. I just could not stand him. And I was like, okay, we're seeing this guy who's like a little careless. He's in a position of privilege, right? He's nobility.
Yes.
And then some things happen at the beginning. And I totally understand his actions at the beginning, right?
Yes.
I get why he's behaving the way he's behaving. But I also thought, oh, he kind of sucks. And we're going to see him have this growth. And then the Robin Hood, like the classic, he's going to be the hero of the people kind of thing. And I'm just like, he's always a D-bag. The whole book, he never learns. Like, there's a part, and this was like, it was way late in the book.
Yes.
I don't think it's a spoiler. It's not like a big plot point. But he smacks a girl.
Yes.
And she says, don't hit me. And he goes, don't give me a reason to. And I was like, I hate you. Like, you are not
I knew you would.
I read it. I was like, am I the only one that's bothered?
No, because I was like, I don't really like him. But yes, and the ending, like where they're at, I'm like, where are we going here? But I'm curious enough because I really like the plot of the book. Like I was so engaged while reading it.
My favorite part that I think there's something he did that I think was really well done. One, he made me hate the one bad guy.
Oh my God.
So much. I hated that guy. And I felt so bad for the priest.
Oh my God.
I'm like, he's so sweet and he's just so faithful and honorable, and all these people are so corrupt and cruel and they do not care about anything.
I know.
And I did appreciate too, like the because this author seems to be very knowledgeable of this. And again, maybe I'm just like this, American that's like, this guy knows his European history so well. But it really it's basically historical fiction, right?
Yeah.
But the way that he talks about how, various different groups of people in Europe, like they'll go raiding, they'll slaughter a whole village, and then they'll make sure to go to church on Sunday, kind of thing.
Right. Yeah.
So showing like so many of them are corrupt and cruel. And this one character in particular is just the worst. Yeah. And I hated that guy and I loved, which is why I was so pumped to have our character be like, it's Robin Hood, right? I'm like, he's going to take these people down. And
that's what I'm like rooting for.
I wasn't expecting it to be super violent or anything because that's not really the Robin Hood thing, right? He's clever and sneaky. And so that's what I was excited for. And I was telling Sean what they do. And I was like, I hated can I just say really quick, hold on. Minor,
I'm so curious.
Spoiler, really quick.
I was like, I don't know if I was gonna like this one. Okay.
He just dresses up like a bird. That's a part of me wanted to respect that it's like so simple and it's like kind of clever, I guess, but he just dresses up like a creepy bird, and then everybody's like, there's this thing haunting the forest. And they just like sneak cattle away and stuff while he's like being a big scary bird man. And I'm like, that's not,
I know.
He never uses his bow, basically. And I'm just like,
yeah. And while I was reading it, I was like, okay, yeah, big creepy bird.
He do something else. He never does anything else. He acts like a big scary bird. And then he does manage to get some money. And then he tries to I'm like, why do you still think they're going to honor this? Like, have you not seen time and time again? Right. They all suck. And then he's like, ugh, like all upset. I'm like, what? I thought you were supposed to be clever. Anyway. All right. Back to being spoiler free.
So here's the thing I do like is he has so much growth. He has so much room to grow.
Room to grow, I think is how I would word it too. But
yes,
I would
room
say
to
I
grow.
Agree very much.
No, he has room to grow. He has potential for growth. And I kind of liked that he's really naive. Like he's
so naive.
Really naive, and I mean, but it makes sense with his upbringing why he would be that way. And so I actually found him quite convincing as a character, even though I didn't necessarily like him all that much. I'm curious. I want to see the growth. I want to see where he ends up. So I'm definitely going to continue. And I love the politicking. I love when we get to see both sides and get a glimpse of both sides kind of doing their politicking and
this reminded me in a lot of ways, and I don't know if this is a positive thing for a lot of people. And I don't think it's a thing. I mean, I know you don't like this either. It reminded me of Witcher. The way that Witcher will show these random nobles or people with power, they're all chatting, they're all rude with each other, and they're all scheming. And then ultimately it affects complete random strangers. Yeah. Right? The little decisions of the powerful have huge consequences for those without power. And I think that this author shows that very well. And that was one part of the book I absolutely loved because I was still interested in those moments. And that's one thing with Witcher that I'm often like, oh, can I just get back to Geralt? And in this case, I'm like, I can't stand the main character. So just let me follow the priest guy. He's
nice. And I'll that's a really good comparison with The Witcher, because for me with The Witcher, I think my problem was the scope of that world is so large.
Yeah.
And so often they were name dropping character names, place names that I was like, huh?
It's more fantastical as opposed to this. Like you kind of have a grasp on who's who.
Yes. And this one feels it's still like, it feels a little bit more epic, but it's still smaller in scope, where when they're name dropping, when they're place name dropping, they definitely, like, it's easy to follow. Like, I've never once was like, wait, who? Wait, where? It was very easy to follow. It's much smaller in scope. So when you're having those kinds of conversations, or you're getting the random perspective, or it's whatever, I was never confused, which I appreciated.
Yeah.
I'm very confused.
My thing with the whole, like, at the beginning of the book, I was like, okay, obviously the prologue, he's a little kid and I feel bad for him. And then he's a grown up and he's kind of like doing his own thing, whatever. And I was like, okay, room to grow, right? He's clearly not a man of the people just yet. And I'm waiting for him to be a man of the people. And then a lot of the book, like, I feel like a lot of the book is supposed to be the growth, but instead it's like, let me recover from my injuries and still be the worst. Like there's this old lady that is in the story that kind of shows up and helps him at some point.
Yeah.
And I mean, she's described as being pretty hideous to look at, right? But he appreciates like her and her calm manner. She's like a little quirky and she likes to sing and she has this beautiful voice and she sings these stories or whatever. But then out of nowhere, he's just irritable and he's just like, you ugly old hag or something. Like he like calls her and he's like being really rude to her and he's like, I'm leaving or whatever. And I was like, what? I thought you were gonna be more like grateful and you were gonna value life more. And like I guess the reason I don't care to continue is I was like, this was the book for him to grow. And then for me, I'm not saying like that's how all books need to go, but for me, like he spent so much time, like the book is kind of separated for a while. There's a lot of different things going on and the characters are away from each other.
Yeah.
So I feel like I wanted him to have this growth and like everything's going wrong over here. And then he would swoop in. And then I'm fine with things like going well. I'm fine with things not going well. I'm fine with there being, maybe they take down one guy, but then there's another guy, or maybe they never even get this guy. I'm fine with all of that, but I need you to be less of a tool.
Yeah.
Fair. I couldn't stand him. I couldn't stand, because especially because so much of the book, because he was nobility, is like, you can be better than the rest of them. And I was like, can he? Because he kind of still is dumb.
Yes. I do agree. I'll have to let you know if he gets any better in the future books. What I'm a little bit afraid is going to happen, just because of the original Hood legend, is the character of Marion.
Mm-hmm.
At the end, we're in a situation, and I'm not going to say anything, but I don't want them together. And I can't say anything because
her character in the book also, to me, felt so much like she's just here for the next, like her plot line just exists for book 2, which happens all the time, and that's okay. But I mean, anytime it was her, she was like, oh, my dad wants me to do this, and I don't want to. And then, like, maybe this isn't so bad after all.
Yeah,
like, she didn't want to do this, and you're like, I don't know, decide, please.
She didn't have a whole lot of agency in this book, and I'm really hoping that we get more of it, because, like, in the original, I feel like Marion's pretty awesome, but not so much in this one. It kind of reminds me, I don't know if you ever read Shatter Me by Tahara Mafi. And I didn't continue on with that series, and a lot of people love it. But in the first book, the main character and this guy are like enemies. Like, he is the worst, and he treats her horribly, and he's horrible. And I think later on in the book, they become like
later in the series or something.
Later in the series. Sorry, not in the book. Later in the series. I think he becomes the love interest from like everyone I've seen talk about it. And I'm like, I feel like that's what's gonna happen with
Did
this.
Slaughter Me come out before ACOTAR?
Yes, I think so. Yeah. That's another one where it's like, really? Him? But yeah, so that's kind of what it reminds me.
Hood was not my favorite. I think I was so okay. I've talked about this before, but books that it's like when you finish a series and you're more upset at the ending because you loved the series so much.
Yeah.
That when the ending disappoints you in some fashion, it's even worse than if you had felt lukewarm about the series.
Yeah.
And that's how, for me, I'm like, I loved this for so long. And then by the end, I was like, you just needed to like maintain this for me. And then, I
know.
I did really like so many of the things that the author did. I just didn't like the character, and thought that I guess I wanted him to be a little more clever. I just always think maybe it's hard anytime you're doing any kind of retelling, because you have already going in expectations of what you want it to be.
Right.
And I want Robin Hood. I don't mind if he's like Mr. Suave or whatever.
Yeah.
But I want him to be this good-hearted, good, like clever, very witty, very smart, and he can be suave. But I ultimately, I'm just like, I don't want you to be just like,
he's not clever in this book. So
he's not clever. He's not, and I feel like he's supposed to be very chivalrous too, especially this time period. Like, respectful, and he's not, and I'm just like, all right.
He at least wants to improve. He's not as bad as the other side.
Well, it's funny because I saw a few reviews because I'm like, what do other people think of this? And some people are like frustrated that it's Robin Hood but Welsh or something. Like, that doesn't
really.
I guess some people are like, I don't know why he did whatever. I thought that was fine. I'm always down for changing it up when it comes to like where things are, or the inspiration or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
That didn't bother me, but I saw some people that were describing it as a dark Robin Hood retelling, and I'm like, it's not. There's definitely consequences, and they feel very fitting of the time period, because like I said, it's basically historical fiction, right? But I guess I didn't think it was because if he were this really dark, brooding Robin Hood, and that was just like his thing, and I'm like, well, okay, then it's okay if he's. I basically just didn't like that he was so lacking.
Yeah, he's not any of those things. He's not dark and brooding. Yes, I agree, Dream Master. The Disney Robin Hood is the best. That one I grew up watching for sure.
A long time ago saw Robin Hood Men in Tights. I don't remember it at all, but did you ever see that?
No, I didn't.
So here, I wanted to answer, where is it? Robin Hood in Wales. There's a little thing in the back about the decision, like the author and everything. So,
well, I'll let you know if he gets any better, because I think we both liked the same things. Mm-hmm. Like, I loved all the rest of it so much and was so engaged. I can't believe how quick I read this. And I was kind of intimidated by it because I knew it was going to be more historical fiction, really, than fantasy. So I was kind of intimidated by it and was like, oh my God, this is great. And it was so easy to read. I liked the writing. I liked everything else. I just didn't love the characters. So, yeah.
Even his friend, the champion, the King's champion. Liked that guy. I liked that guy. I liked everybody else. That wasn't
everyone else is fine. Yeah, Friar Tuck.
Wasn't the bad
Friar Tuck.
I liked a lot. But I guess I liked the bad guys because they felt realistically like they were realistically the worst.
Yes.
Like they weren't sitting here just like mustache twirling, I'm going to take the whole world down or whatever. So you'd have the character I hated the most. There would be somebody giving him commands and putting pressure on him. And then he would put the pressure on the people and he would blame them for everything.
Oh God.
And it was just
horrible.
He was awful to them. And that chapter where you see just how far he's willing to go to just try to get them to bend to his will. That was probably my favorite chapter, bizarrely, because it was the most impactful. It showed the weight of the situation. It showed why we want to take this guy out, why these people and it left me so sad. And it's not even like a personal, it's kind of a bird's eye view sort of the bird. It's like this bird's eye view of everything that's kind of transpiring, and it kind of goes over it quick, but it's devastating. And it's so weird being like, I loved it, but I mean, pulled at my heart a lot.
Yeah, I mean, that's where it hit the hardest for sure, and that's what I appreciate. Like, that's why, like, I reviewed this book and said, like, the stakes felt so high the whole time, and I think it is because we got to see like how it impacts just the everyday people, and it's like
how they get blamed.
Yeah, so I loved it. I didn't love it, but I liked it enough to continue on. I loved that part of it.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. And I'm just the whole, two women came with babies. And so that was enough to count as 4 or whatever. And you're just like,
I know.
It's funny because in my mind, I'm like, why? I know there's other able-bodied, capable people. Why aren't they stepping up? And then I'm like, now I'm blaming them too. You know, it's none of their faults. Or the fact that they understandably were afraid, which is why, you know, like they left. And then for the guy to be like, it's their own fault. I didn't want to harm them. And you're like, why? Anyway, I don't want to get into spoiler territory about that. But yeah, that part really was good. And that's why I was so mad that our Robin Hood was. I needed. Like,
you want them to be taken down so bad, but you don't want him to do it. Like, can anyone else do it?
I don't want him to. I just don't even feel like he can.
Yeah, we'll see. I'll tell you. I'll like Voxer message you when I read the next one and tell you.
I'm trying to think of like who's a character. I always talk about, you know, who should have. You wouldn't know who this person is, but there's this character I've joked that I had a crush on as a little girl. It was like one of my first crushes. I don't even think I was that little, but the character Balthier from Final Fantasy 12, who is Mr. Suave. Like, he's that stereotype of like, I don't want to be involved in I don't want to take this position, but like, he's so cool and super, just like, I can't think of a better word. He's suave. He's Mr. Suave. Yeah. That character, if that character just took, if it could have been him in this story,
5 stars.
5 stars easy. That would have been great. I love that character. Oh my gosh. I joked that I did a side-by-side one time of this character and then Sean, and I was like, did I marry my childhood crush? Hold on, let me find.
Yeah, now I want to see a picture of this guy.
He's the best. He's the best. I love this.
I feel like I remember you talking about him, because now that you said the Sean comparison, I feel like I remember you talking about him in the tier ranking, or like when you did that ranking of 5. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I see somebody saying they're on the fence. I would still check it out because obviously, like Jessie, you know, she really enjoyed it, and there's a lot I think that is enjoyable about it, because I thought it was going to be a new favorite. I wish the character had grown more in the story. I wish I just liked that character more. This is Balthier. I mean, this guy. Imagine this guy. Give him a bow and arrow instead. And, like, it's Robin Hood, you know? Like,
I love it.
Great.
That's awesome.
And even, like, hold on. I want you to see some fan art someone did of him. I'm always getting off on such side tangents. Okay, this fan art, can you clearly... This character just screams like, I'm the coolest. Look at that. He's leaning.
It's like, okay.
He's leaning. It means
I was just about to say, because he's leaning, I need Alan to comment on this.
But he's not brooding. Wait. Alan, this is the only character that's like this that Alan likes. I've talked to him about this. Yes. Like, Balthier can lean on anything he wants. Alan's okay with it because he's not leaning to be like brooding. He's leaning because he's just that cool, you know? Like,
that's so funny. I love it.
If Balthier had been Bran in this book,
then that would have been 5 stars. I love it. Yeah. I don't have much more to say about Hood.
I don't think I mean, I'm sad. I really thought it was going to be a new favorite, and then I just couldn't stand. I was excited to see this character change as the story progressed.
Yeah, he definitely did not change a whole lot in this book, but I'm hoping maybe in future ones.
Yeah, you can let me know.
I will.
And then for anybody that wasn't here at the beginning of the chat, let me get this since we're I was talking about how both Jessie and I read Kingdom of Souls quite a while ago. And when I read it, it was like between flights and at like a hotel and stuff like that. So I last night / this morning was looking up like a recap of it. And I'm like, man, I don't remember this at all. All I remember, and I think it's just because of Joshana, because she started to read it a while before I did.
Okay.
It is quite repetitive. As far as the girl being like, I don't have magic. I wish I had magic. I don't have magic. Why don't I have magic? And it's like really constant, you know?
Okay. So I will say, I really liked Kingdom of Souls. I'm a lean.
I think I need to reread it at some point because
I really liked it. And here, it is repetitive at the beginning, where she's like, I need magic. So if no one knows what this book is about, it's a YA fantasy that follows kind of this family of witch doctors. And the daughter of this family, she's kind of the daughter of these two kind of most powerful, well-known witch doctors. And she's expecting, as she gets older, to like manifest these witchy powers. And she never does. So at the very beginning of the book, her best friend goes missing. And they realize that all of these children have been going missing, and there's kind of this child snatcher on the loose. And to find out where her friend is and what happened, she kind of makes a deal with this like dark entity to trade something very valuable in exchange for magic. And then it kind of goes from there. And so that synopsis, I thought that was going to be like the whole book. I don't know if you remember like how many different directions it goes.
I think that's why I don't remember the book very well.
Yes.
Because it was like,
because it's like
a lot of different things.
It was like 3 different books in one.
Yeah.
It like blew my mind, like multiple things. And I can see, like when I reviewed this, I was saying how I can see why some people may not like it for that reason, because it definitely goes in so many different directions. And I think that's hard to pull off, because that synopsis really only describes like the first like 5th or like 4th of the book.
Some heavier things.
Yes. Like it gets dark.
I don't want to, so not because of the setting of which these both have African inspired settings, but you know how Raybearer, there's like a very complicated relationship between the main character and somebody that you would hope that this relationship is healthy, and it's not. That's how I'm going to word it. And this had that too. And yeah. So like a very like, they have a lot of complicated relationships, but I think because when I was looking at it, I was like, man,
family drama. Yeah.
So when I was like trying to recap for this, and I was like, I don't remember this well enough. I need to reread it.
Yeah. The things that I do remember about it, because I also read it in April, so it was a while ago. But the things I do remember just loving about it were the romance. I don't know if you remember this aspect of it, but the romance in it is the main character has kind of a childhood friend.
But their parents are.
Yeah. And that kind of continues throughout. That romance kind of blossoms, and it's a very slow burn kind of romance. And that was like one of my favorite parts, because so often kind of in YA, I mean, I love YA, but very often you do see romance as a commonly used subplot, and that romance is typically a little bit more rushed than I prefer. In this particular book, though, I thought it was so well done. Like, it was very...
They know each other.
Yes, they like knew each other from childhood.
Yeah, I think a lot of times when the characters already know each other, the author, they don't have to show us them, falling for each other because it's established.
Right.
But in this was like their friendship and their relationship was established, and then that kind of. So I think it was a good mix for people. Like, I know Jade loves like childhood friends.
Yes.
I know she loves that trope, but
yeah, it was such a good romance. Such a good romance. And then, yeah, I could see why you think that in the comments. Yeah. But for some reason, like, totally worked for me. It did go so dark. At times I was like, I kind of wish it was just adult so we could like go there.
I know this is not what this chat is about, but I recently read Iron Widow, and I feel like you could use this description to describe Iron Widow as well.
Okay.
Because I don't know if you're planning on picking that one up. And again, I'm so sorry to derail us here, but
okay.
I think so. We don't need to go on a whole conversation about, YA versus adult or anything like that. Yeah. But YA, I always think is so fascinating, and you just never really know what you're going to get. Because something like Strange the Dreamer is one of, like, if you really step back, it's one of the darkest, most tragic stories. But it's so filled with compassion and these really beautiful themes. But then you get something like Six Crimson Cranes, which to me was like, it's a Disney movie, It's just like this sweet little adventure, and like those are both the same age range, right?
Yeah.
So I feel like a lot of books nowadays, like, they're tapping into some really heavy things.
Yeah.
And which is totally fine. And I'm not trying to say like, how dare you, because YA starts at the age of 12, because also it goes up to 18. And,
yes.
And regardless though, I just think that, kind of going back to this comment, like, I feel like some things, I almost want them to be able to go all the way. I want them to be able to explore these darker things. Not that they have to be really explicit, but just sometimes it feels like they're kind of alluding to it, but they can't really get into it. And then, I don't know if that makes sense.
It does. And I mean, to be honest, like, I think that this one, I don't know how much more it could have, like, gone there. Like, I don't know how much darker it could have gotten. Like, it got pretty darn dark, and especially like the family stuff. Like, there was a lot of like very dark family drama, relationships. Oh, good. I'm glad you like the second book, because I'm very excited to get to it. And like, I loved it for that. Like, I loved how messy the family relationships were in the second part of the book. I feel like this book is kind of 3 parts in my brain. So the second part of the book, I really liked it. And I don't know how much like darker you could have gotten, really. So I don't know if like it needed to be anything more.
Maybe I didn't, I don't think I got into really, I didn't express myself well. It's kind of that, like, sometimes certain moments feel more childish.
Yeah.
While also simultaneously having, so basically what they said, better than me.
Yeah.
And I remember some of the interactions feel kind of like, and I mean, it makes sense that they're going to feel very youthful at times because the characters are very, very young, right?
Yeah.
So I get that. But yeah, I think it's just one of those things where, you know what, that happened with Foundry Side, and that is adult, where certain things are just like super over the top and like violent and stuff. But then some of the dialogue, I'm like, why are they acting like they're 12? No offense, 12-year-olds. I'm not bashing 12-year-olds. I just mean, like, sometimes it felt very different. Thanks.
Yes.
I love it too. I got it from Target.
Yeah, I agree, Miss WOC Reader. I totally agree. The first book, it almost could have been stretched into multiple books, because in my brain, it's kind of like broken up into multiple parts just with the different directions it goes into. I don't know if you remember the ending, but the ending was my favorite part. And we can't really talk about it because it's spoilers. But if you want to put spoilers.
Yeah, also, just really before we go into it, I do wish we had more animated adaptations.
Right? I know.
It was so funny because when Witcher, way back before, when they first announced we were getting an adaptation for Netflix, and I remember being so excited and wishing that it would be animated instead of live action, because I felt like they would have been able to do. And so many people would be like, it would have been way more, it's too expensive to do it animated. And then other people would be like, I agree, because then they wouldn't have to spend as much money. And I'm like, nobody seems to know if it costs more to have live action or if it costs more to have it. Like so many people were saying the exact opposite. And I'm like, you can't treat me like I'm clueless because a lot of you don't seem to know.
Right. That's weird. Yeah. I feel like animated would be cheaper because I have no idea. I don't know anything about the industry.
I think it depends on the animation too.
Maybe, yeah.
If it's like, anyway, I'm not even going to try to say because I don't know. But here you go. Spoilers.
Oh my God, they might adapt it. That would be amazing.
Adapt which one?
They might adapt this book, Kingdom of Souls.
Oh, I saw they're getting a Ray Bear adaptation.
Oh, that's going to be so good. That world is so amazing. Okay. So I'm going to let people like mute for 10 seconds. I'll wait until people are able to mute. I really want to bring up the ending because maybe if I talk about it, you'll like remember it. So
it's really bizarre.
It was so bizarre. So okay, so we find out that she has been like reincarnated, and that she's like this like godlike being who like chooses to be reincarnated and wants to stay in her body for the romance, but that she was supposed to be in love with the other guy. And you're like, what? So I was like, oh my God, I need more. I loved it because I love the reincarnation trope. Like that idea I thought was so cool, but it came out of nowhere. And I was like, what? But I could see like I don't know, because at the beginning of the book, you never would have thought we would have ended there. So it's like, it took a complete left turn, but I loved it. And I can see why.
It's a chunky book. It is a little shy of 500, which is pretty big for a YA book too.
Yeah,
I mean, that's a pretty sizable book in general.
Oh my God, that's like the one thing I do remember about the book. It's like the ending. What? And that's why I remember the romance, because that romance was what kept her wanting to stay on Earth as that particular life or whatever. She didn't want to be reincarnated again. So I was like, oh my God, this is wild. And it's like she was in love with like the bad guy. Like I think it was the bad guy, right?
There's something with him too.
I love
also her love interest. The original one wasn't the original one something to do with like the demons or something? Isn't there like a being?
Yes.
And
yes.
She actually she's tied to him somehow.
Yes. Right? Yes, because I think that she was like in love with him and like he's in love with her. And he's like, I want her back. Like I need to like reread it now because it's been like 6 months.
I obviously need to.
But I was like, what?
I feel so bad that I don't remember this. Because I remember thinking I'll read it during this trip so that like we can talk about it and stuff like that. But one, we were very busy.
We
were just enjoying each other's company. So but then also I just trying to read on plane. I'm not a good plane reader.
Yeah, it's hard.
And I thought, because typically, and this is my fault, I always think like YA is easier to keep up with. There's not usually as much.
Well, right, usually.
And so I think when I was reading this, I was like, shoot.
This is a lot.
A more recent trip I went on, I think we're done with spoilers, right?
Yeah, we're done.
Okay, so a more recent trip I went on, I read, because I picked up a couple romance books and Sean picked up one for that video you were mentioning earlier, the like tier ranking or whatever, or not tier ranking, whatever, it doesn't matter.
Yes.
But I read a little fluffy romance book that Jess loves, Jess Owens, and I mean that was perfect. It's like watching a chick flick, like waiting for our flight. It's like our world, it's
yes. So you're not like
keep up with everything. Like this chick takes stuff. That's what she does. And then that she can't stand this other guy, and you're like, but I bet they'll like each other by the end. It's perfect for the airport.
Perfect.
And this, I was like, I would stop and I'm like, I still have a little bit before my flight, but I don't know if I don't feel like I'm taking it in, and I clearly wasn't because I don't remember it.
Yeah, and I mean, again, like a lot of YA fantasies are easier to follow. Sometimes that's why I like going to YA fantasies between all the big epic fantasies, because it's a little bit more streamlined. It's a little bit smaller in scope sometimes.
Watching a movie between watching shows.
Yes.
Almost.
But this one was like
not the right one to do that for.
So I'm so excited about the second book. I can't wait. I'm so glad that this WOC reader said she liked the second book. So I'm so excited about that. Oh, I can't wait. So yeah,
if you really for those of whoever's still in the chat, I tried to refresh for this. I messaged Jessie. It was like 5 my time, and I had been awake the whole night, like trying to refresh and going back through. And I was like, I messaged her. I was like, I don't remember this very well. I don't know what to do. So.
I mean, no, that's okay. Because again, there's so much going on in it that you're not expecting given the synopsis. And I highly recommend it to anyone it sounds interesting to, because
I don't know.
if you think you know where it's going, you might be mistaken. How little I remember. Yeah. No, I'm not criticizing it. Don't feel bad. No, it's fine. I mean, again, like there's so much going on in it, so I highly recommend it.
You know, Jessie, when I was getting the video ready and I was putting stuff in the description bar, I linked like our previous live shows together. Do you remember Ruin of Kings at all? No. I can't believe we read that this year.
No. I don't remember. Like, I just remember thinking that it had every possible trope, twist, thing going on. I remember it had.
I can't believe that was this year too.
I can't believe that was this year.
I feel like this year has been 2 years. It's been
before
you had your baby. And then your baby. And I like don't remember books from before you had the baby.
No, don't remember. Can't remember Ruin of Kings at all, which is so sad.
Yeah. I mean, I remember at this. For anybody that's still around, we're clearly not even talking about the books anymore. We're talking about other buddy read books. So I'm glad I am, not alone in that. But I remember it was 3 different people telling you his life story from 3 different timelines. So it was like, he's in a cell, that's present day.
Yes.
And then he's telling his life story. And then this one being's like, you're not telling your life story good enough. And so they tell you his life story, but from they start at a different spot. So there's like 2 different. And then there's somebody that jumps in here and there who is in the footnotes. And they like correct the other people and explain why, this one world building detail is actually not true. Or they'll say something about magic and they'll be like, actually, they're mistaken. You can do that. And you're like, I don't know what any of this is. And then then you finally get caught up. And then there's the end. And then apparently book 2 does the same thing.
I can't.
I think it's like a different character. And then we go to present day. I know Piera really likes that, and she's like, how dare you speak ill of the main character's name is. I don't even remember. I've gotten so bad at remembering characters' names. I have a good memory, I just want to say. This live show is not.
You do have a really good memory.
I have a good memory, which is why I felt so bad when I was like, oh no, I don't remember this at all. But I don't know what's going on. I'm like forgetting. I remember events in books. I remember character relationships in books.
Yeah.
And I'll remember specific scenes, but I'm like forgetting everybody's names. I never remember anyone's names.
Names? I don't remember that's why I appreciate Cormac McCarthy's The Road, because none of the characters have names.
The boy.
So it's the man and the boy. That's all I need to remember.
That's what you're gonna call him anyway.
Right, because I don't remember any character names ever. But I did really I actually liked all 3 of the books, and I was so scared because we were like striking out on a couple of like the beginning books, like Ruin of Kings, Bone Ships. Oh my god!
So Ruin of Kings was a miss for us, and oh my gosh, I was like, oh no, because you weren't liking that. I knew you didn't like it either, And I knew you were like, I can't keep going. So
I
like,
almost went up to
for the
the
both of us. And I felt, recommend it for anybody who thinks sounds good. Go check out what Kira says because she loves it. But I was like, oh no, this is we don't like it, and both of us are nice, and we don't want to be mean. So then we're both like, and then we read Legendborn, which was like we had Jess Owens on with us for that, and it was like kind of mixed for that one. And then the Bone Ships, we just were like,
I couldn't even do it.
And we had another person, Abby, who was like kind of joining us, and Jess, and all of us. Poor Abby actually read it, and then we were like, none of us are enjoying it. But I did like Age of Assassins by the same author.
That's true.
But then, and then Kingdom of Souls, I think, was April.
Kingdom of Souls was April. Upon a Burning Throne was May.
Which you liked.
I did really like Upon a Burning
Throne. I haven't read it yet. I still need to read it.
I can't wait for you to read it because it's so different than anything else you'll read. And I'm just so curious what you think of it. I'm so curious. Don't be intimidated by the size either because it's really chunky. It actually reads pretty quick. And it's like pretty writing. So I was surprised that I liked the writing as much as I did because I usually don't like very lyrical writing.
Right.
But it just like worked. I don't know. It was really good.
A little off camera. It's the shelf next to this.
I'm excited for you to read that one.
Right in the way. Anyway, so I'm excited for October is Gideon the 9th.
I know I need to read. I know, and I need to read 12 Kings of Charkai.
So she had started it, and then you had a lot. You have a baby now. So
I have a baby.
Like kind of with where with Kingdom of Souls, like I probably needed to have reread it. 12 Kings, Jessie needs to.
I need to start over.
Yeah, it was.
The problem was it was right after I had the baby, and I was reading one chapter a night before bed because I was so tired that I could only read one chapter a night. And that is not the way to read a big epic fantasy book, is one chapter at a time. So I was just reading it way too slowly, and I was eventually I'm 200 pages in and I have no idea what's going on. So I just need to restart it and just start fresh.
We have a Natural History of Dragons.
Yes, I need to read that one.
Yeah, We Ride the Storm, I think, as one of them. Which that originally, I think, was self-pub and then has been picked up.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's exciting. And then what's our November? Oh, the Melissa Caruso one. Tethered Mage.
Yeah. Which I'm excited. I'm excited for a lot of the ones that we're going to talk about.
Yeah.
We're going to probably do this again, where we'll do a live show and have a few different books. And I'm excited about it. I don't know when it's going to happen because, of course, November is Thanksgiving, and then it's just holiday season already coming up.
Crazy.
Yeah, and I feel like at this point in the year, I always end up needing to try to get back on track. I can't believe it's already October.
I can't.
But I tend to be much happier in this time of the year because you know how people talk about getting seasonal depression when it gets cold?
Yes.
Like that in the summer in Arizona.
Because it's so hot.
You can't even take your trash can out to the curb without being ugh.
It's so hot.
It's so hot. So recently when I walk outside for whatever, I'm just why do I have to work? I just want to sit outside and enjoy this beautiful day because, in 3 months it'll be gone. Not 3 months. Arizona's great for about half the year and then the other half.
That's good. I mean, half the year, that's pretty good.
Yeah. So I'm hoping to just feel so happy and motivated. The other day I was just you know what? I'm going to just go sit on the back porch and get work done out there.
Yeah.
Really nice because it just, I like being outside. It's
it recharges you. It's so
nice. Yeah, exactly. And
then to answer the question about Lord of the Rings, I have read Lord of the Rings. It is one of my favorites. I love Lord of the Rings. However, it is not for everyone. And if you feel like it is boring, you should DNF it. Because that's totally fine.
I am that person who has a channel about fantasy books and hasn't read it. I was going to read it and quite a while ago and then didn't. And still haven't. I got a comment the other day and I was like, is this person new to booktube? Because everybody's over this mindset. And it was an older video of mine where I was reading other people's unpopular opinions about popular fantasy books, right?
Yeah.
Well, I mentioned in it, like, I haven't picked up A Song of Ice and Fire. I was kind of hoping to wait until all of them were out. And it's funny because that's an older video of mine and still no, next book. I mentioned reading the first 4 Wheel of Time books and just not like loving the series. And at the time I hadn't started Malazan Book of the Fallen. And so this person's like, why do you have a fantasy channel if you haven't read those? And I'm just like, well, I've since started Malazan and like I didn't care for it. And I did read some of Wheel of Time and I didn't care for it. And then A Song of Ice and Fire, like I feel like it's legit. It's been a long time and I'm like, I'll wait. And then but I just laugh because I'm like, everybody's over this. Like, I am not going to go read 10 more books in a series I don't care for when I can read 10 other books or more because they get really big that I do like, that nobody is talking about or people, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Anyway.
Also, like, you have a fantasy channel because you read fantasy books. It doesn't matter what kind of fantasy books you're reading. Fantasy books, like.
I mean, I'm not trying to like teach how to cook without knowing how to cook or something. Like I'm just talking about books I'm reading, most of which happen to be fantasy. But I'm like, I'm like at no point am I claiming to be an expert.
Right.
That's why I was like, is this their first time discovering?
Yeah, I think it is.
You know, it's like when people say like, well, technically, okay, wait, let me clear up here. I understand that literally audiobooks are not the same thing as like physically reading. Yes. I understand that. But the people that are like, you're not even actually that get all weird about it. We're all over that. Like nobody.
Yeah, like, we're past that conversation.
If you comment that, I'm just like, okay. I don't. All right, if you say so. You don't have to think it, but I like it. Anyway, Jessie, just to show you, I feel like my mood will be happier this week. Look at the weather. Look at this week.
That's beautiful.
Sunny with a high. Well, sometimes it's the 80s. There's a couple days that get colder, but then like the lows are like 50s. It's like, oh my gosh, it's perfect. I'm so excited.
That's so nice. That's so nice.
I'm clearly not on topic at all anymore.
It's fine. We knew we would go off on side tangents.
We talked about these books for a while. I wasn't sure how long. Because I was like, well, I don't want to do too many spoilers. December. I love December in Arizona too. Sorry, there's a comment.
Yes.
This is funny. Yeah, geez.
It's funny.
But anyway, I liked Never Die. I think that's one of my favorite ones we've picked up, but it's still like we talked about at the beginning. Not my usual because I thought it was fun. I would love an adaptation of it. I thought it did. I know how much we make fun of this statement, but like when people say like it did what it set out to do, which means nothing.
I know.
Like, that doesn't mean anything. And I'm going to poke fun at that phrase. For a lot of people say it. And sometimes I'm like, what if somebody set out to write a mediocre book? So if that's the case, like, do you give it 5 stars because they did what they set out to do? They executed what they anyway. Anyway, but like that book, it's how do I explain it without using that phrase that I think is
but it's true. Because
it is.
It's true.
It's just not what I usually find to be a favorite, and it doesn't need to be because it's perfect the way it is for what it is, right? That's, I guess, what I'm trying to say.
Yes, that's a good way to put it.
Hood, I just
could have been 5 stars. Could have been.
I have a question. Am I crazy? Is Bran also the name of the character from Game of Thrones?
Yes, I have a lot of
name Bran. I'm just gonna be like, ugh, because every time I would watch Game of Thrones, I'd be like, ugh, you know what? We haven't seen Bran in a while, and then like the next scene would be Bran. I was like, dang it!
Great.
So, anyway,
well, we all know how that ended.
This is gonna go with Alan like hates short fantasy character names.
I know. I love it.
What's the one he can't stand?
Kip.
That's right.
From Nightbringer.
Why? That's a little fantasy character. So I wonder if Bran, if he puts a hood, I wonder if he'll also be I could see Alan kind of liking it. I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like it's not as bad as Kip. Y'all need to have a rant talk about Game of Thrones. I like actually like don't even like talking about season 8 because it genuinely infuriates me. So I'm just hoping that the books don't do what the show did. We just speak in a totally different direction, just something completely different. And I think that George R. R. Martin said that the show, how it ended, is not how the books are going to end. So
what if that's how he did want it to end and saw how much everybody hated it and was like, that's maybe not.
He could have done that too, yeah.
Just kidding. I do feel bad for the position he's in. That's rough. But, hopefully he writes, even if he never writes it, right? That's fine. He gave the world something.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of like how it's the same thing with like Name of the Wind. That's how a lot of those fans feel. It's like, well, we got 2
then
really
there's
great books.
All those fans who go back and retroactively rate the first book 1 star until he writes the 3rd one. And I'm just like, get a life.
That's a lot.
My goodness.
Yeah.
This is not anything to do with anything about Game of Thrones, but just talking about TV shows. Season 3 of What We Do in the Shadows has been coming out 1 episode a week. What?
Is it good? I need to watch it because we watched a couple episodes and they were so funny.
So funny. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I mean, I've been enjoying this season. There's the actor that plays Nandor, the like really tall guy with the long hair. There's an episode where he gets this cloak that or anybody can access the cloak, but it allows you to take the form of another person. But you don't get their voice. You just look like them. And he has a crush on the girl that works the front desk of the gym. So he asks another one of the vampires if he can wear this cloak to look like Nandor and then flirt with the girl and set a date up for them so that he can then go on a date with this girl because he's like afraid of talking to her and flirting with her or whatever.
Yeah.
And so at some point in the show, basically every character is Nandor. Like they put on this.
Oh my God, that's awesome.
But obviously the actor is playing like he's
right.
But like you hear the other actors' voices because it's supposed to be their voices, and we were sitting there like, wait a second, did the other actors read their lines and he's lip syncing, or is he impersonating all of them? And he's impersonating all of them, and he does such a good job. Like there's to the point where you're like, you honestly can't. At first, I'm like, I can't, because it almost doesn't seem like it's coming out of his own mouth. You know what I'm saying?
Wow.
Like, wait, I can't tell. And then I read that he did indeed impersonate all of his co-stars, and when he would rehearse, like he would feel, or when he was practicing, he felt bad because he felt like he was like mocking them. You know,
oh my God, that's so
willing to sit with him so that he could try to pick up on their mannerisms and stuff.
That's so impressive that like you couldn't even tell.
And weirdly, the one he does the best is Nadja, the girl, the woman.
That's so funny. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to watch that episode just to see his impersonations. That's awesome.
I want more people to love that show as much as I do.
I feel like it's so highly rated. Like every time I see like the ratings on Rotten Tomatoes, it's like 100%. Like everyone loves it who does watch it. So I need to like get into it. I don't know why I'm not watching it. I need to watch it. I just don't watch a lot of TV. I don't watch a lot either, but like it's my program. Like every Thursday at 10 o'clock, I was like, and then I've rewatched the first, because there's only 2 seasons up until this point, right? Yeah.
So I've rewatched a lot of them, and many a time it never gets old. It's always funny to me.
That's awesome.
I love that show. More people, please go watch it. It's
everyone go watch What We Do in the Shadows. Me included.
I made Jessie watch an episode, Jessie and her husband,
and it was very funny. We both laughed a lot.
I mean, it's out there and it's weird humor, but it's I always am not sure how to say Taika Waititi, right?
Taika Waititi.
And Jermaine. What is the other person's name?
Jermaine Clement.
Yeah, they're the 2 main people behind the show. And no, I have not seen the movie version. I hear it's funny too. But it was funny. The actor that plays Laszlo, Matt Berry, I saw an interview where they were asking him like how he got involved in the show, and I guess Jermaine, is it Jermaine or Jamaine?
I don't know because I think is it French? So I don't know.
Well, I guess they like worked together or something at one point, and then the guy like turned to Matt Berry and was like, "I'm thinking of doing a TV version of that vampire mockumentary I did. Would you want to be in it?" And
it's Jermaine.
Like, Jermaine. Okay. And he was like, "Sure." And then that's how he got the role. Is the guy just decided like, "I want to do a show version. Do you want to do it?"
Oh my God, that's awesome.
So that's how that actor got involved.
Oh, he's from New Zealand. That's cool.
I've heard the movie is very funny too. I definitely need to check it out at some point. All the actors were so funny too, is part of what makes it great. Like and the actors seem like they have the best time. Oh my gosh, the actor that plays Nandor. So he, all the vampires, they try to make them look very pale. And this actor is darker, and so they have to put a lot to try to make him look pale. Oh yes, The Promised Neverland is great. Sorry, I saw that comment. Anyway, they have to make this actor try to like make him look very pale, even though his skin is more of like a golden brown, you know. And he was talking about, there's an episode where you see his butt, and he was talking about how they had to like powder his butt a lot to make it match his face.
That's so funny. That's awesome. Yeah, the behind the scenes, I'm sure, is really entertaining as well for that show. It seems like they would have a lot of fun.
I also love the episode where they get invited by I'm sorry, now I'm just gushing about the show. I'll come back in a second. But there's an episode where their human neighbors invite them, because nobody knows they're vampires, and their human neighbors invite them over for a Super Bowl party, and they think it's a party for a superb owl.
It's incredible.
Funny. So then they're just like, "You're going to." I'm not going to do Nandor's voice, but they're just talking about going to the superb owl party.
I love it. That's awesome.
So, it's very silly, and the actors all seem like they have a great time with it. So highly recommend. Anyway,
behind the scenes.
Yes,
that's good, Jake. That's funny. Oh, cool. This is really fun. Yeah, I do want to do another live show with the rest of the books. Maybe like in January or something.
Yeah, I don't know if we'll be able to do all of them in 1 month. We might have to do more live shows.
We might have to do 2 more. Yeah.
But maybe we can do like next year to make sure we still are able to like sit down and chat about books here and there. Maybe we'll pick like 3 books to read at some point next year.
Yeah.
And then do a live show when we've both read those books or something.
Yeah.
That'd be fun. I mean, you didn't, little Jane, how dare she?
Really interrupted the reading plans.
Yeah, jeez. So, Cytonic. I am
very
excited about that.
I need to read Skyward first, but
yeah,
I feel like I'm going to love it.
Really do need to read it.
I do need to read Skyward.
Looking for the superb owl episode right now. Yay!
Yay!
So, I have a few my absolute favorite, the episode I made Jessie watch is, there's so many good ones, but my favorite one is when the character Nandor gets one of those spam emails that says you have to send this to 10 other people or Bloody Mary is going to put a curse on you or whatever, and he thinks it's real and he's freaking out about it, and they try sending an email back and it gives them the mailer demon automatic email. It's an actual demon. So that episode I love. And then the Superb Owl one is great. When Nandor wants to become a U.S. citizen is great. And one of the best episodes is the Jackie Daytona one, which makes no sense to anybody that hasn't seen it. But one of the vampires goes on the run from Mark Hamill. Who plays another vampire randomly in an episode.
That's hilarious.
He goes on the run and he decides to pretend to be a human barkeeper, and for whatever reason gets really invested in the high school girls volleyball team of that town. And it's just like the reason it's not the best episode to introduce people to the show is because it's like this one character goes on this random adventure basically.
Okay.
And so, but it's so ridiculous. So anyway, it's a great show. I love it.
Hilarious.
It's great. And I cannot recommend it enough. Anyway, but I've talked about it for way too much.
I'm going to go watch it.
Kingdom of Souls, Hood, Never Die, What We Do with the Shadows. And both here.
We recommend all of them. Maybe not as much Hood because of the silly main character, but the rest of Hood is really, really good.
Still recommend it. It sounds good to check it out.
Yes, I think so.
But I couldn't stand that character. So
yeah.
It was so fun to.
This was so fun. Thanks for having me on your channel, Elle.
Thanks everybody for tuning in.
Yeah, thank you.
It was a good time. Lots of fun.
Yes, we'll do it again sometime soon.
Maybe Bran is the superb owl. Maybe it's all related. Anyway, okay. Yes, thank you. Thanks for showing up, everybody.
Bye.